Well, thanks a lot for joining us on Tonight with Jane Dutton. I am, of course, Faith Mangope. One of the country's biggest employers is about to start laying off people, thousands of them, that is, and the employees targeted are between the ages of 55 and 59. Now, we're talking about the government. Finance Minister Tito Mboweni has made it clear that the public service wage bill needs to be cut by 30 billion rand over the next 3 years. That translates to about 30,000 jobs. Will this solve the country's fiscal problems, and what effect will this have on public services? Tonight, we have in studio Tair Maepa, who's from the Public Servants Association, and Professor Ivor Sarakinsky from the Wits School of Governance. Thank you so much to the both of you for joining us this evening. Tair, you've come out quite strongly. I saw one presser that around why is it that we need to lay off public servants' jobs in order for us to make up that 30 billion rand. Would you have another alternative, especially when the minister came out and said we're giving these individuals a package to go home and take a retrenchment package in peace and with dignity?
You see, the challenge that I'm having with this rhetoric of government, they are saying that they are broke. Well, they don't have to tell us. We know that they are broke. They want to make up some money. But the Minister of Public Service and Administration comes, he says that we want the older people to leave so that we can create jobs for the younger ones.
Yeah.
Now, what are you saying? Are you going to bring another 30,000, and what's going to happen with your notion that you want to reduce the wage bill? It doesn't make sense.
So you're saying that he's taking on an ageist approach to perhaps solving the fiscal problem in the country?
Well, they're trying to solve a fiscal problem and also deal with the political problem that they are having because of the majority of the young people are unemployed. But then that is dishonesty. We need to deal with what is the core of the problem. Our government is broke, and there's a number of reasons why this government is broke. One, you need to start where it began. You cannot just out of the whole cake look at one segment of government and blame it on them and think that they will resolve your problems. And those problems that we are having need holistic approach.
Yeah. And we're going to go into this holistic approach because you also made suggestions around perhaps we should start looking at it from the top down, right? Instead of looking at it from public servants who are doing the daily jobs and doing their jobs quite well just because of their age. Now they have to take retrenchment packages, and maybe we should start looking at those individuals that are corrupt at the top of the food chain. So we'll talk about that. I want to bring you into this conversation. What do you make of the suggestions by the finance minister? Do you agree with it? Do you not agree with it? Is it not a way of saving 30 billion rand? 30 billion rand saved.
Yeah, something has to be done. It's a question of how one does it. And there are other ways of saving money, and some have been mentioned. Let's leave that aside for the moment. I think the problem is that the public service isn't a proper triangle. It's not a proper pyramid. It's heavily bloated at the top. So you've got too many people in the higher echelon getting the really top benefits, which means that you aren't able to employ the appropriate people lower down in terms of service delivery. So if you rationalize the top, you can have more efficiency at the bottom. And a good example of this is you go to any Home Affairs office anywhere in the country, and you'll see 4 or 5 cubicles that aren't staffed by a person. There's a job opportunity there because the queues are out the door in every single one of those offices. But you've got chief directors and deputy directors general sitting in Pretoria thinking strategically and making policy and not contributing to service delivery.
Yeah.
And that's part of the patronage problem in terms of bringing people into the upper echelons who don't necessarily add the value they ought to.
Yeah, and obviously there's that suggestion on news that came out recently of Minister Yana Tlotlo, who's going to be making it illegal going forward for ministers who came in with their team of individuals to actually reshuffle them should they be taken out of that position. Do you think that that perhaps is also another issue, that we keep inflating this top echelon, so this top of the food chain, we keep inflating it and having people come on board and not actually maybe people who are there on merit?
Yes, you see, that is why I'm saying this is quite a sophisticated dilemma that we are faced, and it needs to be addressed holistically. And currently, we are trying to get to quick fixes. And in doing quick fixes, you are really not doing a service to the country. What is the purpose of the public service? The public service is there to serve the people, ordinary people of this country. And like it has been said now, Home Affairs as an example, understaffed and yet we expect them to be efficient. Now, all those things need to be taken into consideration. The other thing that needs to be mentioned is already in the public service, there's almost 200,000 vacant positions. Now, the question is that who's doing their job? Why do we still have a situation where one teacher has to teach between 50 and 70 kids in a class, and yet you expect a good outcome? It doesn't make sense. Our priorities are messed up. Until we deal with those priorities, we'll never be able to resolve this problem that we are facing.
I want us to take a look at exactly, and I mean, we've got a graphic that we're about to show you right now, an image really, just looking at exactly what does this mean, right? And what are we talking about when we're saying that the public sector shows that the greatest growth between 2018 happened between, well, the greatest growth happened between 2008 and 2014. There's the numbers and the figures that are in front of you right now. That we've got 530,000 extra people who are employed in 6 years, that it accounted for 17.5% of all jobs by the end of 2014, and that the current public sector wage bill is about 585 billion rand a year. But clearly, downsizing needs to happen, especially when it comes to this, right? 2008 to 2014, that's a huge margin in terms of understanding how many people got capacitated by government. So the one question I'm going to ask is that, are people being hired on merit? Or is it a situation where people are being hired because they know somebody who can put them in the job? And therefore, the ones that can do the job, unfortunately, are not getting those positions. And we've got a whole lot of people who are in the public service who are not as efficient, because we know that people complain about public servants. People complain about public services. But is it also an issue around maybe the people that are there don't know how to do the job? And it's time that we get, even if it's younger blood, the people who know how to do the job finally filling those vacancies so that we can have an efficient working public service.
Yes, that is also a problem. But you see, for one to have efficiency, you need to have efficient leaders. And so long as you have people at higher echelon of the public service being hired because of they've got a particular membership card, not necessarily because of they know what they're doing, they are going to replicate that deficiency by hiring wrong people. That is also one problem. Now, we're talking about releasing a number of highly qualified, experienced individuals who were supposed to be the ones who are supposed to mentor the younger people who come into the public service. We are going to now find ourselves in a situation of ESCOM. We chased everybody with experience. Now we are in trouble. We say, please come back and help us. It doesn't make sense. That is why I'm saying, you see, we have an economic problem. The reason why we are unable to afford our expenses is because of government is not getting enough money to pay for those expenses. It's because the economy is bad, and who messed it up? It's us who messed it up because of corruption, because of all these wrong dealings that we are doing.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to ask you about corruption there, but I want to know about which departments do you foresee are getting the hardest hit by this?
Well, there's little doubt that after the election there's going to be macro restructuring of the state, which means crunching a lot of departments together, reducing the number of ministries, and crunching together line function bureaucracies. That just has to happen. It's just dysfunctional now, and if that isn't happened, we're just not going to even make any headway. So that has to happen, and there's going to be some winners and losers in that. In that the ministers of these macro departments are going to be very powerful in terms of the resources they control, but there's going to, on the other side, be losers, and those are people that are going to be shed from the system. Yeah. So that's the problem. How you manage that's crucial here, and I agree with my colleague. If you offer retrenchment packages, who takes the retrenchment package? Not the worst person in the public service, the best person. They take the package and then they become consultants, either in the private sector or they consult back to government, and government ends up paying back again. So you've got to have a more systematic way of finding the people who need to go and the people who get to stay.
One might say that one definitely does not want to become part of the finance ministry around this time, and definitely does not want to be the finance minister, as they have been caught between a rock and a hard place. Gentlemen, we have to leave our conversation there for this evening, but thanks a lot for shedding some light in terms of exactly what can be anticipated, especially after the elections, as you said, Ivor, and also looking at that public service wage bill there. They're set to be cut within the next 3 to 5 years. Now, how is America reacting to the damning allegations made against President Donald Trump? And what is Michael Cohen revealing today? We have an update next, but first, here's an update on international weather conditions.